The drive to Guasti is a long, dark, and deserted road. If you feel that you are lost, then you have arrived at the Haunted Vineyard. Located in Ontario, California, just east of Hollywood, the Haunted Vineyard is nestled in the abandoned 100-year-old community of the Guasti Vineyard. In just a few short seasons, the Haunted Vineyard has become one of Southern California's premier haunted attractions. The Haunted Vineyard is the brainchild of movie and theme park FX specialists Steve Cutronio and Ron Pardini. Founders of CIFX Special Effects, Steve and Ron have gone on to present what could be one of the most unique events in the SoCal Halloween season.
But we wanted to bring our movie experience and theme park experience and apply it to a haunted house and see if we could come up with a really fun, new attraction. Something that kind of bumps it up to a new level.
It's a view at one glimpse, one moment at a haunted house the way that we want it to be. It's just a mere slice, though, of all the possibilities that are out there. Working in the movie industry, we had a good opportunity to work on a lot of horror early on. And so it's kind of been a love that we both have, and so it's something that we've wanted to get to a point where we could, share it with other people, share the visions that we have. It's like any live stage production. You have to have a willful suspension of disbelief, and we want our customers or the people going through it to experience something that they seem at that time to be real.
We were scouting locations, and when we showed up here, we instantly loved it just because of the old buildings, 100-year-old buildings, all dilapidated. It was a whole working community. The vineyard was one of the most thriving vineyards in America at the time, back in the early 1900s. Guasti is actually a person. He's the founder of the Guasti Plaza and the vineyard here. He built a church here and bungalows, houses for people to live, and he had a lot of his friends, family, and workers lived here year-round, including a marketplace where they got all of their food and their beverages and everything, and it was like their local grocery store. And that's the actual building that we were able to get, was the old marketplace. We were sitting here, all of a sudden trains started going by, so we had this natural, awesome sound effects of these trains roaring by, and we figured we really got to pull that into our story too. So that's kind of how we created our story based on what was already here and what our surroundings were, and we decided we needed to tie in the train and the vineyard and everything and really just come up with a fun, creepy story that worked for the place. We were able to get permission from the owner of the Guasti Plaza, as well as get some actual archive photos from them. So we were able to pull in some of the real history of this place and tie it in with our fictional story that we created, which kind of makes it a more realistic feeling then, because you can actually come into our haunted house and see real black and white photos of Guasti and some of his business partners, some of the family and friends and the people that worked here. And they're real photos, they're real black and white photos from the late 1800s, and early 1900s. And they just have such a spooky look to them anyway, the old black and white photos. They never really smiled or anything, and it's kind of neat to show some of that history in here as well.
The Guasti Cemetery is the cemetery that in our storyline was where Segundo Guasti buried all of his friends and relatives who died in the fateful train wreck that horrible day. Ours is themed as a vineyard, so we had to tie in with things like barrels, crates. We're dating ours at the 1920s, the early 1920s. So anything that would now be considered an antique from that era, those are things that we can purchase and add to the theming that we don't have to create.
This building has a lot of character. It's an old historical building, and we need to use that to our advantage when theming this out. If we leave a bunch of bare plywood walls in here, it's very obvious that all we did was throw a bunch of bare plywood walls in here to divide up a room, and we don't want to do that. From the second you enter our gates, you can read about our story. We have little stories that we pass out for people, and it starts to kind of set the mood. It kind of gets you into the feel of what you're about to experience. And then what we do is the minute you enter our attraction, we wanted to make sure that everything was just 100% themed. Everywhere you look and everywhere you go, we didn't just want black walls everywhere, and a lot of haunted houses have that kind of just broken up theming where you go into the Mad Butcher kitchen and then you enter the Crazy Clown room and then you go into the 3D dot room, and they're all fun rooms, they're great, but you line them up in a row and none of them are like a continuing theme or story, and that's something that what we wanted to do is we wanted to have a very consistent flow as you're going through there. The most important things when we created this event is me and Ron decided that when we were going into this, that we wanted a 100% submersible environment and story, and we wanted to create an event that almost like sucked you into a movie experience.
We wanted even our curtains to look like something, so that when you step into the interior of our haunt, it feels to you like you're in somebody's house. It creates a cool, weird invasion sensation where you're like, at first you're going, okay, this is really cool, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff, but you also feel kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't be here. This is, am I in somebody's house? What's real? What's not real? And at that moment, when you start to lose where the reality ends and the fantasy and the imagery and the cool horror begins, that moment is where we've got you.
When we solidified our story, our actual fictional story for this place, the whole legend of the Haunted Vineyard, then once we had that story in place, we could create the whole haunt then and come up with it room by room. The interior is about 2,600 square feet, a little over that. And then the exterior stuff, we've probably got maybe about, I don't know, maybe 5,000 square feet, 6,000 square feet of exterior stuff. There are a lot of obstacles and a lot of different challenges just to get this show up and running. I mean, from day one, I mean, other than just creating everything here, the artistic end of it was very easy for us. That we had covered. We had a lot of years experience creating props and stuff, but different people involved in different aspects of it. We had people that we could give direction to that would go off and just be wonderful. They were artists. They could create things and paint things and just have fun. And we, 60-something people volunteering their time, some of us 24 hours around, the clock, and some people on the weekends. And it was just an amazing thing to see it come together. I mean, we even look back on it sometimes and we're like, how did all this get creative? We could never have done this without all the volunteers here and everybody's help. We kind of figured that we'd just start creating the thing and hope that the ball would get rolling and the pieces would fall into place. Then you enter, you go up a few ramps, and that's when you really enter into the building, and from there it just all goes south. There's creatures getting you. There's really not a spot in the haunted house where you're not getting nailed by some sort of creature or some sort of inanimate object that comes to life. We want to have at least something while you're in the queue line to already start pulling you into the story. So when you first show up, there's already kind of dilapidated fences and some creatures popping out at you, and like we mentioned before, there's little stories that we pass out to everybody so they can kind of learn our story and start to pull them right into it from the beginning. The first thing you see is what we call our pre-show cemetery. It's just kind of suck you in and get you into the mood, and we created a pretty elaborate cemetery with a memorial statue, the Guasti memorial statue, and the memorial cemetery, and there's all the vines, the creeping vines, and the evil old rotten grapevines. Our main cemetery is a very huge, elaborate cemetery that's just a continuation of the first cemetery.
It's an old wooden walkway with these old lanterns that are flickering and glowing, and all of a sudden you have to go in all by yourself.
What we tried to do with our scares is really tried to have you getting kind of nailed from all different aspects, all different angles, all different areas, so you can never sit there and predict where the scare was coming from. That was really important.
But when you look at the true masters, they create a movie where you never really get to see what the creature is. You're not sure where the scare is coming from. You're not sure what's going to be doing the haunting, and that's the tone that you have to set down to really make these things happen. And I think that's where a lot of haunted houses miss. They go out, they buy all the props, they litter the place with props and stuff like that, and people have a good time, they see some fun stuff, and it's entertaining, but it's not the level that we wanted to be at.
We tried to create with our scares is we wanted to have really varied and different scares in there, a lot of different types of scares. We didn't want every scare to be just an actor in a mask. We didn't want every scare to be just like a puppet popping out. And we actually really tried to get away from using and utilizing pneumatics and mechanical controlled scares. Nothing works as well as like a real actor controlled prop or character or creature, because they can actually see when the guests are in the prime spot or at the very perfect moment to scare them. And I think timing is everything when it comes to scares. A blacklight room where we have a lot of old kegs of wine, the old wine barrels in there, and we have a giant stack of wine barrels and crates, and you walk in, and this huge crate, a 4x4 foot giant crate, comes falling down right in your head and slams right above you on this wall. And there's a lot of these spooky photos on the wall, and you come in there, and one of the photos actually opens up. It kind of flops down and makes this huge loud noise, and a creature comes popping out of there at you, which is kind of a really good scare. It really gets a lot of people, and some chains that clank around in there make a lot of noise.
We have a corn maze set up where you're walking through the corn maze, and every angle, we had several paths that went through it. As you're walking on each path, every time you step onto a path and start walking, there is a light directly at head level right in front of you. So every time you turn the corner, boom, there's that light again blaring at you.
And we have some really spooky scarecrows that we created there, and of course a couple of them are real that pop out at you, and some nasty crow sounds and ambient sounds in the cornfield there. And the reason we created the Ghost Girl room is there's actually some real stories of a ghost girl that have been floating around this place. We've had a number of sightings from not only guests, from actors, people that have been helping us out, and there's also been a number of ghost stories that have been floating around, even from the caretakers of this place, and the owners of this place for many years have had multiple sightings and stuff. So of course, me and Ron felt that'd be just a fun thing to tap into and just keep those things alive. Ghost Girl was something that was sighted a number of times, though, by a number of different people who had never even talked, which was kind of just a spooky little coincidence. So we felt, you know, let's pull the Ghost Girl into our actual story.
So you have vines going from the beginning, where there's just a few vines on the walls and stuff like that, and then by the time you get out of the attraction, you actually have to go through a whole wall of vines. So everywhere around you is these vines.
Although most guests will not notice that the vines are coming to life throughout the attraction, it is this subtlety that assists in setting a complete submersible event.
Section of metal fence that we ran, wrought iron fence that runs along the entire length of that final room. And rather than have like the chainsaw guy running out or something like that, what we did is we got this creature with this giant metal pipe, and he's hidden in the corner, and we let them get about 3/4 of the way through the room, and he comes running out with that pipe scraping along the metal fence, and it just makes this loud clanking metal sound, and he's screaming and roaring at him, and it just chases him, and they just go flying out those last curtains and come half the time piling out of there. It's like they're just running and screaming.
We're done.
You know, what is scary? What's the primal fear that people have? And one of the things that really scares everybody, hands down, is when you start to limit their senses, their ability to see things, their ability to hear things, their ability to feel things. When you start attacking senses that they're not used to having attacked, it throws you off balance. And when you limit somebody who's used to relying on a sense by taking that sense away, you know, that's why the dark rooms in haunted houses, the black rooms, work so well, because you walk into it and all of a sudden I can't see anything.
I was scared, but it was also like the parts where we weren't being scared were really interesting to look at.
Overall, it was incredible. I think the most successful thing about it was just the hype that we generated. It was incredible. We had some write-ups and some reviews from some critics that traveled around the Southland to different haunts, and we got one of the only haunts in the area that got a 10 out of 10 rating. We had some incredible write-ups in different newspapers and stuff, and I think just the buzz that got out there was what really made it successful for us.
Waiting in line, there's characters walking in behind you while you're waiting in line. It's suspenseful. Just waiting in line was suspenseful.
Yeah, so one guy came up behind me, just like kind of, I didn't notice when I turned around, he just kind of like, just jumped right at me.
All the different skeletons, the way that they look like really dead people, they're just like all dramatic and very scary looking and hanging from the ceilings and the scenery.
It was scary.
It was scary.
Yeah, it was.
I'm sweating.
I know,
So
I
scared.
am too.
Yeah, a lot of
very detailed.
Yeah, it's real detailed.
They're hiding everywhere.
I think it's the fog, the strobes, you can't see too well.
And then it's inside and outdoors as well.
You know, we don't want people leaving here feeling like they didn't get their money's worth and didn't have a good time.
And when you're standing there in line and you see these people come running out, they're running out and then they're going, And they're just sitting there, you know, like taking a few minutes to catch their breath and stuff. No, we're trying to entertain people, and the biggest thrill is when the people actually go in and they come out and they are thrilled at what they've experienced, and they feel that the money that they paid for it is worth it, that the line, you know, the hour wait to get in or whatever is worth it. All of those things are worth it because I had a great time in there, and that's all we want. We just want people to have a good time and have fun and be safe while they're at it, and that's why we do what we're doing. When you walk out of this thing, you really feel like, wow, I've experienced a haunted house. I haven't just seen it. I've lived through it, and I'm alive, and it's, you know, by the grace of God that I made it out alive type of thing. And that's really what we're trying to pull off.